Asia and the Pacific exhibit severe disparities in terms of population growth. High population growth makes it harder to reap the demographic dividend, since it is linked to high fertility rates and large numbers of people outside the workforce. When fertility rates decline, the structure of the population shifts towards there being fewer young children and more people of working age. Countries with significant investments in family planning and women's education, and policies that encourage people to delay marriage and childbirth, have fewer adolescents tasked with raising children and more women pursuing higher education. The fertility rate, including the adolescent fertility rate, is a key indicator to track efforts to harness the demographic dividend. Generally, lower fertility can boost women's participation in the labour force. This, and many other indicators, including ones discussed shortly, are clearly explained in the ESCAP indicator framework to assess progress on harnessing the demographic dividend with a gender dimension in Asia and the Pacific. The dependency ratio, another useful indicator, is often used as a proxy measure of those who can contribute to the national economy relative to those reliant on it. In theory, a lower ratio means lower dependency, with more working-age people relative to dependents. Yet, aging is a changing concept, and older persons often remain economically active and support their families beyond these ages. A declining dependency ratio is important for developing countries to achieve economic growth. Policies related to child and elderly care, the provision of services, and balancing work and family life all influence the actual level of dependency. Indicators related to health, education, employment, and governance reflect what occurs in each of these sectors. Good health and well-being are fundamental for a society, and the demographic dividend cannot be harnessed without significant investments in health, especially sexual and reproductive health. Policies to ensure that women can have children in a planned and safe way improve health outcomes for mothers and babies. Health systems should always promote gender equality, and public health campaigns promoting healthy lifestyles should be tailored towards different genders, ages, and groups within society, with concerted action to address physical, sexual, and psychological violence against women and girls. Raising educational levels is crucial for alleviating poverty and spurring economic growth. A highly educated youth population is more versatile and productive than a less educated one, and women with higher levels of education are more likely to transition from unpaid care work to direct labour force participation. Education should be equitable and gender sensitive, and policies should aim to keep girls and boys in formal education for as long as possible, and ensure that young people develop the work and life skills they will need in the future. In addition, including groups that may be left behind by education systems, such as persons with disabilities and minority groups, is also vital to maximising potential for economic growth. Economic structures determine the capacity of a population to produce greater economic output. Establishing formal labour sectors with meaningful employment and supporting people's transition from informal and unpaid labour to formal and paid employment are effective tools. This transition requires access to social provisions, as well as policies to provide an income for people hit hard by economic hardship. Good governance is the foundation of sustainable development, and equal representation in decision-making is part of that. Harnessing the demographic dividend requires initiatives to ensure participatory, representative, and inclusive political processes, as well as responsive state institutions. Gender equality policies should aim to increase the proportion of seats held by women in national parliaments and local governments, as well as the proportion of women in managerial positions. Governance policies should seek to increase the agency of other groups lacking a voice in decision-making, such as persons with disabilities, older persons, and ethnic groups, as well as support civil society organisations representing these groups. The enjoyment, protection, and respect for fundamental civil, political, and socio-economic rights of young people, with particular attention to young women, is crucial. Policies should empower people to understand and exercise their rights, through open and transparent public administration, protection of privacy, freedom of speech, and healthy public debate. As noted in the ESCAP indicator framework, harnessing the demographic dividend relies on cohesive policymaking across sectors. Population, health, education, employment, and gender equality policies must complement each other to create an enabling environment for economic growth before, during, and after the window of opportunity provided by a demographic dividend. This involves careful planning, quality data, and effective monitoring systems, with accountability to develop, implement, evaluate, and adapt policies to changing situations.